I am not really that interested in New World's lore. I can't lie, I think because the story was sort of told badly when New World first came out, I never really got into it, and I'm not really a lore guy anyway. However, I think we have a massive tease about the next expansion and the story in that expansion. And really, Season 7, which I think is the expansion, is all coming together and making sense. So yesterday there was a dev video about the main story update quest that is coming in Season 5. I haven't tried it on the PTR. As I said, I'm not really that bothered about it myself. I know some people are interested in lore, so go check that out. I'm sure it's all very interesting. You know, go and watch. But at the bottom of the article, there is this. What can players look forward to in the next chapter of New World Story? And then there's like a little bit of a jokey bit and it says, I have the best book to tell you to read for our inspiration. It's actually written by Redacted and called Narrative Director Info Block Activated. Not bad, huh? So I think players are going to enjoy the unique perspective of that kind of gameplay. Plus, sneaking around underground areas and mausoleums is always fun, even when it's not Halloween. Okay then, now it's getting a little bit spicy. Now, if you tell me about mausoleums and underground areas, I instinctively think of vampires, especially the fact that they mentioned Halloween. Now, vampires and werewolves were sort of already, you know, considered to be the next expansion, but it looks like it's becoming more and more true at this point. You may have seen this image if you did the MSQ. I don't really want to spoil it, but you know, we sort of need to at this point, because if you've not played it at this point and you're looking at the future of the expansion, then you know, it is what it is. But in the end cinematic of the MSQ for the Elysium Wilds, the Return to Angry Earth, you see this image which quite clearly has a werewolf on it. Like, that's straight up a werewolf, there's no doubt about it, okay? And then that screenshot is immediately followed by a vampire. Now that is obviously a vampire, and if you actually play the cinematic, which I'm not going to do here, there's like a hand that comes creeping out of the tomb. This is quite clearly a vampire. Werewolves, vampires, mausoleums, Halloween, isn't it all just starting to add up? Now I don't actually have any idea who this is because I'm not really a story kind of person, as I mentioned. But this is the big bad, I think. And really, it looks like the expansion is all sort of setting us up for the Underworld. Now, what's even more interesting about that is that they are sort of hinting at this very early on. It's like we're actually going to lead into the expansion. I sort of feel like Season 6, which is the one that we don't know anything about, because there's nothing really leaked about Season 6, it's all Season 7, might actually set up the expansion. Maybe they're ditching the seasonal story, which by the way, there is no seasonal story in Season 5. So maybe in Season 6, the seasonal story will actually not be a seasonal story, it'll be part of the MSQ that will lead us into this. I hope so. It's a little bit weird that we're getting huge hints about this in February when the expansion is probably September, October, but I think it's almost undeniable at this point, isn't it? Now, on the PTR for Season 5, there are some new outfits as part of the season track reward, which is Hecate's, and if I'm not sure, I don't know how to pronounce any of this, so don't judge me. But basically there's a new set of like Hecate's chosen cult and all this kind of stuff, and Hecate is very interesting. So she is the goddess of a Greek religion, often showing a pair of torches, key or snakes accompanied by dogs. Ignore all of that. The key thing that I want to point out, which I now can't find on Wikipedia, but on this other page I can. Basically, she is the goddess of necromancy and ghosts. Now, necromancy, not quite exactly, but somewhat surely related to vampires, considering they don't die or they come back from the death. I'm not quite sure why they're setting this up in Season 5 when there is no real story, so I don't really understand the point of adding some of these items, but there's definitely a hint here. It's definitely a tease, I think. And you can see here that Hecate shows Nyx's connection to the underworld and the mystical aspects of night. Nyx, you might know, is the name of a server. There's all kinds of mythology and all that kind of stuff being used in New World. Now, I won't pretend to understand any of this, but Mr. Lou, who's somebody I speak to quite a bit, was speaking about how the devs once mentioned in one of the videos somewhere along the lines, I'm not going to try and source it because, you know, that'll take me ages, that they spoke about how Azoth might not exist in the Underworld. So the Underworld as a concept is definitely real. I actually think that was in a Lore Seekers video rather than a dev video. But there's a lot going on. For somebody who's into the lore, which I'm not, there's a lot being pointed at the fact we are going to the Underworld. Will that be directly underground? Well, probably, considering they just said underground and mausoleums. And if you're talking about mausoleums and crypts and that kind of stuff, then you're talking vampires and werewolves, and they're in the cinematics. Like, everything just makes sense at this point. Everything lines up. The Underworld, I think, is coming. Whether or not it'll be called that, I don't know. There was a little bit of a thought, like, would they be a new type of enemy? Well, I sort of feel like the vampires would simply be lost, and the werewolves would simply be beasts. I don't know or have any idea, obviously, what the mechanic would be around these, whether or not you can turn into a vampire or a werewolf. I personally not a huge fan of that. I just like being a human, but you know, maybe that has some downsides or that kind of thing, or maybe it's just part of the story. I don't know. But what I am excited about is that we are getting teasers already about what's coming next. And that might be important considering right now we're in a little bit of a dearth of content. I don't know what's coming, but I'll tell you one thing, I'm pretty excited. Whatever the Underworld is, I'm here for it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big shout out to my Patreons. Forgot the word for Patreon then while I was saying it. Fantastic. Genius. For now, have a most beautiful day. Goodbye.